In this lesson, we'll take a closer look at masking our geometry in ZBrush. So we kind of touched on it in the last lesson. Let's talk a little bit more about masking. Masking is activated on a polygon object by hitting Control, and that will allow you to paint a mask on your model, assuming you've got the mask pen selected. With Control still held down, we can also change between different kinds of mask brushes, but let's just start with the mask pen. So holding down Control, I can come in here and mask out a particular area. All that means is whatever I do on this model, anything inside of this gray, this dark area, is not going to be affected. So if I go in and say I want to sculpt and I want to paint, and I want to go in and paint in some orange on that, I can go in here and you can see it stops right at the line. Okay, nothing that I do is going to affect whatever is in the mask. So I can paint out a mask like that. I can also hit Control and just tap on the canvas, and that will invert the mask. So now only what I do, only the inside stuff's going to be affected, and everything else is not going to be affected. So that's Control tap to flip that mask around. If I want to clear the mask, I can Control drag inside the canvas. We also have a masking subpalette that we can access. So in the tool palette, come down to masking, and here we can do some different things. So I can draw out a mask right here. You can see here I can turn off or on the visibility of the mask. I can invert the mask like we did before. I can blur the mask. You can see it blurring it there. So now we get more of a fall off versus a sharp line. We can again invert that. We could grow the mask, see growing it in, or we could shrink the mask. So there's lots of different things we can do. We can sharpen up the mask, so we can do a lot of mask modifications in here. We can also mask based on different aspects of our geometry. So if we want to mask by the smoothness or by the cavity or by the color of the texture, we can do all those things in here, and there's some really extensive things that we can do in here. And we can also change the brush. So that was a mask pen, but even with the pen selected, actually, let's just take a look at this. If I click on here, Control drag, I'm painting a mask. If I click out here, I'm actually drawing out a rectangle, and I can mask that way. Okay, so I can drag that rectangle out. If I drag that out and I hit the Alt key while I'm dragging it, so Control and Alt, then I can unmask. So we can do it that way. We can also come in here and choose the mask lasso, and that will allow us to mask out areas based on this lasso that we've drawn out. And again, Alt will invert that, so you can create some interesting effects that way. Control drag to get rid of that mask. We can also use masking based on a curve. So if I draw this out, Control drag that out, you can see the mask. Oops, let me try that again. So the masking, you can see there's a shaded side, and then there's a side with no shading. So the side on the shaded side will be masked, and I can invert that or get rid of it. So there's lots of different kinds of masking that we could do. We could use a circle. And one of the cool things about this is it doesn't seem, so if I just try to mask this particular area out, I'm not really doing a good job because I don't know exactly where to put it. So look at a couple of things here. We can drag out this circle, and then if we hold down spacebar, we can actually move it wherever we want. Continue to resize it, move it wherever we want. Okay. We can also come in here on the stroke, and we can turn on square and center, and that'll actually allow us to draw it out from the center and make sure that it's a perfect circle. Then we can move it around, and I know that it's a perfect circle, and I can move it where I want, and I don't have to worry about it being the wrong shape. So you can do that inside of the stroke. Let's go back to the mask pen. Now, this is on a polygon object, but there's also masking that you can do on primitives. So if we draw out a primitive object, and let's just draw out a cylinder here. We'll just pull it out here. And let's turn on our polyframe. So this is a primitive. We haven't converted it to a polygon yet. So what we want to do is, you can see we go into masking here. and just mask all. And then let's go down to mask by alpha. We'll open that up, and you can see here there's a row, column, and grid. So by selecting these and changing the numbers, we can change how the mask is created. So let's decrease this amount to 4. And so you can see we've got 4 rows that are masked and then 4 rows that aren't. So if we could take this down, we can start to get some cool masking going on based on just the polygons that we have there. So that's kind of interesting. And that works on primitive objects that we're working with instead of polygons. So we can come in and mask things off that way. Okay. So again, Control is what will take you to your modifier key for masking. And you can go in and change the mask brush that you're using, as well as, in some cases, the stroke to get a better effect. So you can use it, use a lasso kind of effect to create your mask. You can just paint right on the model a mask. You can use curves, or additionally, you can mask based on all these different attributes. So by ambient occlusion, by cavity, and this becomes really handy when you're going in and you want to sculpt or paint on peaks and valleys. You can mask off the interior parts and just paint the top parts, just hit the top, which is really cool. So that's a quick look at masking. Let's take that a step further, and in the next lesson, take a look at how we can use the deformation subpalette right above masking, and we'll look at how we can use that in conjunction with masking. So let's do that next.